Thank you very much, Vasilis. The previous speakers have set the stage for this just perfectly because they said, you know, open source is a way of thinking. Even more, it's a way of life. What I'd like to show you is another aspect of it. It's also a way of doing business. And we, as Delving, were basically born from the womb of Europeana way back in 2010. Long time ago. It's more than a year now. And we established the company as a vehicle for us to do things that we saw a big need for. There was a lot of people in the community who needed to get more sort of direct attention, and there needed to be a mechanism by which they could hire in people to do things really specific for them, and we set up the company to serve that need. So the predicament that we found ourselves in when we started our own company is that everybody wants everything. We would talk to potential clients, and they effectively want anything that's possible. They want to have integrated into their platform, you know, geo-searching, timelines, you name it, they want it all. But none of these cultural organizations has really enough money to do it all themselves. And it's developing now in the Europeana community, but there's a strong need for collaboration in any ways that are possible. The challenge is for these organizations to do these developments in the right way are things like you have to concentrate the expertise. You have to have a number of people who are really passionate and really driven, and they have to really focus on specific problems and solve them and be very pragmatic about it. It's very hard for an organization to have a team that's as focused and driven. And even if an organization does have such a team, it's kind of rare that these people sort of travel around and lend their expertise to different organizations. So in a way, Delving was just a vehicle for us to allow us to do that sort of thing. It's hard to retain people in the cultural heritage business because, of course, there's other markets that are very attractive to good software developers. So you lose people sometimes to other activities. Even if they have less fun doing it, they still do it because it's more money. And one of the main things that was always a focus at Europeana and still is putting up a system that is actually of real production quality. And there was a bit of a gulf between the projects that were being developed at the different institutes as research projects and stuff that you can actually put online on a large scale and keep running and keep maintaining. So it was always a big challenge to do that, and that remains a big challenge. So it's kind of the holy grail of what people want in the cultural heritage business. They want, these days at least, they want the best user-generated context or content that you can come up with. They want to get people participating. Everyone has seen Wikipedia, and everybody has seen how that has worked, and various other things of that kind. But what we need is to get that into the cultural heritage business so that we can have a kind of a Wikipedia, but then it's focused around cultural heritage. So it's got sort of a more educational purpose to it. People want their data to appear in locations, on timelines. They want to know who is involved, and they want to know what it was about. If all of the metadata makes these connections for you, then it's possible to make renderings on maps, on timelines, and to do reasoning with the information if it's linked to each other. So everybody wants to achieve these things, but they're tricky to achieve. They're quite difficult to accomplish, and there are a number of sort of obstacles that need to be overcome. The last one there, I put it in between braces because it's a sort of a sensitive subject. Is it possible to have metadata corrected from the community and to actually adopt the corrections back? That's something I'm going to deal with a little more in a minute. So data quality is an issue. It's, in our experience, rarely the case that the metadata is as good as it could be, or as good as people want it to be, or even as good as people think it is. You find out that there are a lot of things missing. There's a lot of opportunities that you can't really take because certain information is not there. Some organizations have, for example, geographical information for all the metadata, and some don't. And some have partial identification of places and things like that, but it's not usable for reasoning or for mapping. So what should be the case in metadata? Of course, there's a lot of cases where you've got fields of characters. It's got a name of a city or a name of a person, but this is not something that you can really use. It has to be turned into links to the actual vocabularies so that they all agree on these things. A lot of challenges on that front that we're working on with various clients. And yeah, metadata is often just sort of frozen. It's not changing over time. And we have to find a way to sort of keep it alive somehow. So what we want to work on or what we're working on now and what we're going to be expanding on in the coming years at Delving is the idea of bidirectional flow. So on the one hand, you've got the institution with its metadata. We've already done a great deal of work to manage and publish and make discoverable this metadata, but that's of course just one direction, and that's the way it has been working. It's based on this idea of harvesting. So you pull information from one place and you put it into a search engine, and that's unidirectional. It only goes in one direction, so the data doesn't get better as a result. So ultimately, we need to have a means by which the data is improving because of the participation of people on the outside. And even if that's a trickle, even if there's just a small amount of improvement happening every day, at least there's improvement happening, and it can be, increased or decreased depending on funding available. But the most important thing is that there's a process in place. So as Wikipedia has shown, users are really willing to contribute a great deal of information to an online resource. The same thing is true of a Europeana-like site, because there's a great deal of richness already there, and it's even better than a kind of a Wikipedia approach, because you're already arriving in an environment full of this richness, and your job is to sort of contextualize and build your own sort of world out of that. So we're trying to build the tools for that purpose. And ultimately, of course, there's going to be a lot of improvement necessary in the metadata to make it really work the way we want it to. And so we're going to involve people making corrections and embellishments and things like this. But of course, we're also going to be employing some artificial intelligence. And in the end, it still isn't the case that these organizations are willing to accept answers from an artificial intelligence source. People want to approve or disapprove of the improvements that are coming in, of the enrichments that come in. So we really want to build a workflow that makes it possible for curators to make those decisions and make it kind of part of their day to slightly improve the data. Like I said, we are an open source company. We live the whole idea of open source, and it's the basis of how we operate. So we always have to make the case to clients, what is it that we do, and why do we do it this way? Why is it open source? And what are the consequences of that? Well, one thing is, of course, as we know, you get a lot for free. And in fact, of course, the platform Europeana and the platform Delving that we've been developing since, they're all based on open source technologies. There's a huge mountain of work that's gone into the building blocks that we use to put this together. So we have to be grateful for that, and we also sort of have to participate in that as well. So when you adopt some open source, you're adopting a big investment that has accumulated over the years. And you're also adopting, or you become part of a community that can be in a lot of ways self-supporting, and that makes it a lot more robust. It's less prone to failure, complete failure at that point, because there's always someone ready to take it over. As a client, getting software from a company that is open source is comforting in the sense that you're not tied to that company forever. That's always the problem with closed source, with proprietary systems. Once you've bought the ticket, then all that happens is the next year it becomes more expensive. So, you never know what you're going to have to pay in the future. And it's sometimes hard to get things done the way you want it to be done, and you hit a wall because the commercial company is holding you back because it just doesn't happen to be in their interest. So the idea of buying open source, or paying for an open source project and getting a company to help you with it, also means that you are free, of course, to set up your own team at some point once it's running or while it's getting up running, and in fact take over. Leave us out of the equation, and that doesn't even bother us. We've got enough work to do, so we're happy to have more and more people using the stuff, rather than worrying about charging everyone for it. And when it's open source and it improves and it gets contributions from various sources, all boats rise. It's basically like everybody profits from it, because every time someone considers going to open source to our platform, they inherit all the stuff that's been built until now. So what are the downsides? Well, the downsides are, for us at least, when we go to a client, we have to say, well, you could just take it and do it, but we offer you services. So they always have to think about, well, what are these services actually worth? But it keeps us humble, it keeps us in our place, which is good. So delving, you get, when you go for the delving approach to rendering or publishing your metadata, you get the core functionalities, you get a menu of existing features that we've been developing for other clients. You pay for some development, for some deployment. We maintain it, we style it, we make, include branding and things like that. You may have a feature that you need that isn't in there, and we have worked with clients to develop new features and include them in the platform. And we also do training and hosting, and we basically support the whole process so that people can justify taking this step, because it's always important to have someone you can call. The idea is, of course, we'll all invent the wheel together, rather than having the wheel being invented in 6 different places and never any collaboration between the multiple. We're actually building sort of standard-based systems and including implementations with the standards, so that makes them sort of more robust. We're developing in the open, and the results they have a greater longevity, because the code is out there and it can be taken by other parties and continued further. It's never a dead end. The limitations are we have to operate in a certain way, and that's something that a commercial company does not have to do. What we have to do is we say we can't develop products for each and every client individually. We have to be very careful, and we have to define our own roadmap, and people have to either agree with our roadmap or influence our roadmap, but they can't really cause us to have multiple roadmaps. We just say they can fork off. There's a certain amount of despotism in open source that's well known. There are certain groups of people who are essentially the despots that determine what happens. Like, for example, Linus Torvalds is the despot of the Linux kernel. And that's a good thing. When you have real focused attention and expertise, then it makes sense to have one group or one person really determining what's happening, because then it has a real consistency to it. It might not match with existing things that have been built, so we might have to talk about merging with existing software, and it might be difficult. We can only go to certain lengths doing that because we're an open source company. We have to have our own way of operating, we have to have our own timeline, and we have to customize it as minimal as possible. We expect contributions from people who are involved with our platform. One of them might just be technical. I mean, we prefer technical contributions. If someone has a deployment in the field of our stuff and they're using it all the time and we get improvements back, that's a fantastic way to improve the whole platform. We also need, of course, some financial contributions to help us do developments and feed our families. So the way we're going forward, we're working on a very elaborate form of user-generated content or context. which is very geared towards collaboration. So you can imagine things like a classroom collaborating to make a project involving digital objects that they've uploaded themselves combined with ones that they found from the various institutions. Geo information, so we can map things, temporal information, so you can place things on a timeline, zoom in on images, annotations, statistics, usage statistics. These are all main focuses of ours. So the Culture Hub does this part of it. It's our product that sort of forms the server and people interact using it. And the SIP Creator is something that we're developing further and further because there's a huge diversity of data that comes into the system as a basis. And so we have to be able to handle all the different diverse inputs. So what you have to be conscious of is that a client of ours would sort of have to get into the idea that what other people want is basically what they want. So the idea is to find something that is, you could say, a compromise or a middle ground between what different people really want. And the compromise is worth it because we all sort of share the same thing and everything gets better as a result. And to actually have discussions about where should this roadmap go is, I think, a very good process to be in. And it puts people in the same room to talk about where things should go. And it's nice to have an independent third party who can help you set things up, and you can actually officially hire them in and you know, do it in a business-like fashion. So in the future, in the near future, of course, we're having more and more economic issues, and I think austerity will can be an issue, a growing issue as time goes on. So I think we're going to have to be very careful about what we do in the future years in this cultural heritage sector. We're going to have to really sort of collaborate or perish. We're going to have to do more together and be more effective about it because there might be a lot less money available to do these projects. And we can avoid building things that never really get into production. We can just focus on things that really work. Thank you very much.